to Elliott. Oh,
the shot! Bedoya with a goal! 1-0 Union!
Hey everyone, and welcome to Union Insider presented by Bimbo, Bakeries, USA. I'm Marisa and I'm joined by Sebastian Letou and Sheanon Williams. It was a wild weekend in MLS soccer, and the match between the Union and FC Cincinnati, fellas, it was no different. The Union looked like they were on the top of the world in the first half, coming out to a commanding 2-goal lead. But that all changed in the second half. The Union couldn't convert any of their chances, and, well, guys, you guys remember Cincinnati converted 2 of theirs and came out of Chester with a point in a 2-2 draw. Now, what's interesting is entering this match, the Union were 8-0 when up at half and 9-0 when scoring first. That doesn't stand anymore. So what was it about this second half that caused the Union to drop that lead?
I don't know. I feel I was disappointed about that game. Even if they were up 2-0, I think after the first half, we didn't see much in the first half, but they were up 2. I think not having Acosta for Cincinnati kind of reminds their lineup. They play still well. They got some opportunity, but we scored 2 goals. And then I was thinking, really like the second half, we're going to get our chances, more counter-attacks, and it was kind of flat. I didn't see any energy from the team. We barely get any opportunity in front of the goal. And then, a change, I think, from Cincinnati with Bupenza coming in the game really put the dynamic, offensively for Cincinnati. They came back quickly, got the first goal, get a second one, and then at the end, you're like, maybe we are going to lose this game. So it was very disappointing for me. I think the team didn't play very well the entire game, even if we are up 2-0. But I think it's something they need to really talk about to get a better dynamic offensively because we didn't create many chances.
Yeah, what stood out to you about that second half?
It was really just a tale of 2 halves. I think in the first half they did a really good job of picking up second balls and looking to play forward and connecting their first pass. And then the second half, it really just kind of fell apart, and it fell apart really early on. I think Bupenza coming on was a huge plus for Cincinnati. We were able to see what he's all about in a short, 35-minute span, and comes on, gets a goal and assist, and comes right back out. So it was just disappointing in how they managed the game, and they weren't able to get into the game in that second half. They created a couple chances in the first half, and then it went completely dry in that second half. And I think that anytime you give up a goal so early on, you think about more defending that lead than you do about advancing it and then trying to attack and get that third goal to kill the game off. And they're going to have to do a better job of managing second halves and making sure that they go and have that killer instinct to finish off a game and not let teams get back into the game.
We talked about how important it was for them to get off to a hot start. They did just that, but then they just couldn't close out that lead. Cincy's head coach, Pat Noonan, was an assistant coach with Jim Curtin for 4 years. How much do you think that familiarity played a role in the adjustments he made and Cincy's subsequent result?
It definitely helped, I think, knowing the type of, lineup and tactic Jim Curtin always put with his team. We play at 3 in the back, which was a bit different than maybe when Pat Noonan was here because he was more 4 in the backs, but it definitely helped him to kind of know exactly where to attack, where was the weakest points of the offense, and he did a good job kind of like have a great talk at halftime with his team to remotivate them. And I think having this chance tactically of Santos out and Bupenza back in really make a difference for him, and he came back in the game and he was very close to win it.
Last week when we previewed this match, we talked about this is an opportunity for the Union to make a statement going against the best team in the league at home. What did that statement end up being?
I think it's still to be determined. I think that we're still waiting to see what this team is going to evolve into in terms of this home stretch now that we're in the season, and then what they're going to be in playoffs. I think it's been kind of sometimes they're in a back 3, sometimes they're in a back 4, which formation is better. And it's just important for them to kind of figure out what's going to be the plan moving forward. And I think they need to pick one and kind of stick with it. I know that from game to game it can change, as well as having, lineup changes and whatnot. But I think it's time to kind of narrow down the focus and really start to get things going.
We are back again with another edition of Onsite, Offside, presented by Green Mountain Energy. You guys know how it works. I'm going to present a statement to Seba and Sheanon, and they have to decide if they agree or disagree. Agree is onside, disagree is offside, and then we'll get your thoughts. All right, first up, the past game against Cincinnati, you were just talking about this, should mark the end of the 3-5-2 experiment. So this result was all we needed to see that, you know what, guys, I think we're good with the 3-5-2. On or off? Seba, you disagree?
Yeah, I think, even if he was not pretty the last game on the 3-5-2, it was especially on the goal we conceded, like the three in the back, plus, the two outside were not on the same page. I think he can come back to it. You never know the personnel you have in the team. You never know who is injured, who is, available. With the next game, in Charlotte, there is Elliott was not here. He has to play maybe in the back. So it's going to be different, but I don't think it's, the end of it.
Offsides for me. I think the formation in that last game didn't really have much to do with the result. I think it was just two poor mistakes that we end up giving up 2 goals in that second half, and I think that doesn't really tell you a lot about the formation and really matter about whether it's a 4 or a 3. Those mistakes would have been those mistakes whether they were in a back 4 or a back 3.
All right, so we can still switch things up here. How about this one? The Union, while they have a lot of talent, Alejandro Bedoya is still the team's most important player, onside or off. So given all the talent the Union have, Alejandro Bedoya is still the most important player. All right, now you guys agree to disagree. Sheanon, you go first.
I'm going to say offsides. While I think Alejandro Bedoya is a really important part of this team and his leadership is invaluable, I think that there are other guys on the squad that are really more important than he is. We've seen them be able to deal without him for big stretches in this season in particular and still be able to pick up wins. So I think that there's other players that are more important, but it can't be downgraded about his role and his leadership when he is on the field.
Yeah, I think like you, I think it's still very important for the team, but maybe in a different role. I think, maybe a game like Cincinnati, if we had maybe Alejandro Bedoya coming off the bench for maybe 30 minutes, he could have maybe helped the team get maybe the goal, get a different type of energy into the game. And like Sheanon said, in a game he was not here because of an injury. We saw a lot of people who step in, into their role, who really apport a lot of, positive into the team. And I think physically is maybe where he's at right now is maybe not, how he was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So I think more people offensively can bring more into the team to help the team win the game.
We're stepping away for a moment, but first, here's this week's Union Trivia question presented by United Concordia. Who holds the record for the most fouls committed in a single game in Union history? Find out the answer later in the show. We're back with This Week in Union History presented by Premier Orthopedics. This week, in 2018, the Union took down Western Conference foe Sporting Kansas City by a score of 2-0. Both goals in this affair were scored by Jay Simpson, his only 2 goals of the 2018 season. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Marisa Pilla. Let's get into our first team report presented by Green Mountain Energy. When the 2023 MLS schedule was released, this was the match everyone in the Philly area had circled on their calendars. Players, coaches, fans, and I think the city as a whole want revenge after that heartbreaking loss in the MLS Cup Finals to LAFC last November. Here's what head coach Jim Curtin had to say about the finals rematch set to take place on Saturday night in Chester.
This is I believe our 42nd game, Jose. So we're in uncharted territory ourselves, so this is new for all of us. And it's a challenge. It's just a challenge for LAFC too, right? They play a St. Louis team, for first place tonight. They have us, and then sandwiched in between that, they have us sandwiched in between the Campeones Cup too. So there's no easy road for anybody. So I don't use it as an excuse, but we have to make smart changes. And look, 45 minutes for these guys, or 55 is basically a training session. So, guys like Ure and Carranza will be fully ready to go, for this big game against LAFC. So they'll have to do a little extra running for Danny is the nice way to put it, So they share the load well, and we'll do okay.
I brought back Seba and Sheanon here with me to discuss this LAFC matchup, and even though the Union have played LAFC twice in Champions Cup this season, they're playing them in the regular season for the first time. I saw on my way in today, there's a billboard on 95 with these 2 logos, and it says, "So we meet again." So how much does that finals result play a role in what to expect this weekend?
I mean, there's still a bad taste, I think, in the mouth of every Union fan, losing this final last year on the, PKs with a incredible finish. I think, we all wanted the cup. So playing this team for the first time at home, I think it'd be a great, party into Subaru Park. Every fan can see this amazing team of LAFC. You have to give it to them. They are, very, very well to play, against them. They are a good team, with a lot of great players. So it's going to be a big game, and it's, I think, going to be very important to put another statement. We missed it against Cincinnati, and I think to do a good game at home and beat LAFC at home before the playoff start, in a couple of weeks away from it, I think it would be a big statement.
How much is a team actually talking about that in the locker room heading up to this game?
I don't know. I didn't been to the locker room, so I'm sure they are talking about it. But I think it's something, it's in the head of every player after you lose, a final like that away in LAFC. I think they are coming here, and you want to show that you are still here and you are still in fight to get the title this year.
Yeah, they want to definitely redeem themselves. And Sheanon, what's interesting about LAFC is that they just had a big match in El Tráfico. They won that game against the Galaxy, but they haven't won 2 games in a row since June. What version of LAFC do you expect to see this weekend?
Yeah, they've been really up and down over the last couple games, and hopefully the Union can take advantage of that roller coaster that they've been on. With the game being at home, I think it's important that they really take onus on being on the front foot and really trying to press this game and get 3 points out of it. I think that they've definitely dropped some points that they would like to have right now, and they really need to keep pace in this second place race right now with the rest of the teams in the East. So it's an important game, and hopefully they can come up and be ready for this game.
How can they take what happened against Cincinnati, especially in that second half this past weekend, as a lesson going forward, kind of a blueprint of what not to happen against LA?
Yeah, again, it's just about managing the game in the right way. Anytime you're up 2-0, you can't just sit on that, especially when it's 2-0 at halftime. You know that the other team's going to make adjustments and come back at you in that second half. And I just don't think that they dealt with it well. So just that's the lesson that they take, is how to manage the game when they're up and how to do it in a way that makes sense and makes them a team that finishes out at that game like we've seen them do so many times, rather than giving up points in that situation.
With the Union taking on LAFC this weekend, it's time for these two to hand over their keys to the game, presented by Subaru. So Seba, what will be your key for this weekend?
I mean, we play LAFC with very good in counter-attack, especially away. They player like Vela, Buanga, who get very fast. So for me, it's don't lose the ball too easily in the midfield. Don't do like a back pass or whatever. Make sure that if you play or if you want to take risk in their offensive side, but not in the back or not in the midfield. And we saw against Cincinnati, Kaunza losing the ball, we led it to a goal. Against LAFC, it could be the same thing. So make sure you take care of the ball, and when you decide, to make a back pass, it's always like exactly, and you are sure about what you're doing, and it's not like a between.
All right, and Sheanon, for you?
For me, it's going to be to limit the time and space on the ball for not only Boanga but also Carlos Vela. Those are the 2 players that are going to be really important for this LAFC team, and they need to do a good job of making sure that they're limiting their chances on goal. We talked about them needing to get back to getting shutouts, and I think it starts with making sure that those 2 players don't come in here and get a goal.
And Seba, when talking about your key, how much does communication play a role in when to take those risks and knowing who's behind you when you do?
I mean, it's communication, it's about movement, it's about everybody being involved. I think, we saw a little bit like flat movement against Cincinnati last time they played at home. So against the LAFC team who is going to come here, and try to put a statement as well. They're going to maybe become aggressive, maybe they might stay. So depending on what they're doing, I think just the movement between the player and the communication, depending on what formation, Jim Curtin decide to play, it's important. But you see sometimes the frustration of the forward who come too low to get the ball and lose it. You don't want that. You want them to stay high, put pressure, and I always talk about it when we play at home. I love when they press. I love when they don't leave a lot of time to the defender to give the long balls. I have a Cellini, in the back who is very good, very smart in his passing. Put more pressure on them, win the second ball. It's what you want, so you have the ball in their half, and then you don't do those mistakes.
Now, with your key, Sheanon, there's been games before where the Union had to hone in on specific players. Is there an example you can point to of they did a really good job of cutting off this player that they can try to replicate against LA?
If I'm looking back on it, I think that there's been some games where we keyed on opposing players and they haven't done a great job. So just learning from those mistakes, I think, when Messi came in here, we could have done a better job about limiting his time and space. The same thing with Lucho Acosta in that first game against Cincinnati. I think when they come up against these big-time attackers, they need to make sure that their rest defense is set up and that they're ready to go once the ball does turn over. And like Seba said, just not giving the ball away cheaply is going to be really important as well.
When Union Insider returns, we'll take a look at one of the most dynamic players in all of MLS and one the Union will need to stop for a chance to win on Saturday night. We'll be back after this. Time for this week's Chick-fil-A Nugget of the Week. With his goal against FC Cincinnati this weekend, Daniel Gazdag now holds the MLS single-season record for most penalty kick goals scored in a season with 10. Welcome back to Union Insider presented by Bimbo Bakeries USA. I'm Marisa Pilla, that's Sebastian Letou, and that is Sheanon Williams. The Union will face another talented team in LAFC on Saturday night, and they're led by one of the most talented goal scorers in MLS in 28-year-old Dennis Bwanga, and he gets the spotlight in this week's player profile presented by Subaru. The Gabon international has been stellar this season, scoring 14 goals and adding 6 assists in 25 matches for LAFC. Not only is Bwanga in the Golden Boot conversation, but he has to be among the leaders in the MVP race as well. So let me go to our resident defender. When you're game planning for someone like Bwanga, what needs to be at the top of your list?
Just making him go back with the ball. I think also he's somebody that likes to run in behind, so they need to do a good job of dropping off when he's trying to get in behind them and just keeping him in front and really just forcing him away from the goal. I think if they can do a good job of limiting his time and his runs in behind, I think that they can hold him to a shutout here.
Is there something specific that makes him such a headache for defenders?
The fact that he can do a little bit of everything. Usually an attacker has, one thing that he's good at, but when you face attackers that are good at holding the ball, making runs in the box, finishing, then that makes them a little bit more elite, and that's why you're seeing him have 14 goals on the season.
Yeah, as an attacker now, Seba, when you watch him play, what stands out to you of like, ooh, I like his style?
I mean, I knew him a little bit because he played in France. Even if he played internationally for Gabon, he played most of his career in France. So he was still very good, and was surprised to see him coming to MLS as a young age. And coming here, sometimes you believe, he comes, but he's not going to play his level. But he's really motivated. You can see, like Sheanon say, he's good finishing everything. He's good dribbling at the ball. He has a great strike outside of the ball. He can finish inside, outside, headers, whatever is possible, but just kind of like all of his movement, on and off the ball, he's always at the right place at the right time. The ball come to him and he scores, the goal. So it's great to see him. It's not surprising to me to see him, that good. We all knew, his quality, and I knew the quality before he came here. But he confirmed what he was doing in France with LAFC, and he's going to be a big threat for the Union.
That's interesting. You've seen him kind of at the beginning of his career, and now as he's kind of picking up steam here in MLS. What is the biggest growth you've seen from him?
I mean, you can see that the confidence he has, in his team. He's one of the leaders. When he was in France, he was maybe not, the best player of his team, but now, he is. You see his confidence, see physically how good he is and how strong he is. He's fast, he can hold the ball, and it's something, we changed from his beginning of his career when he was in France.
Let's now take a look at some of the action from this weekend in MLS Around the League presented by Torque. With Messi not traveling to Atlanta, the Five Stripes needed to take care of business on their home turf, and boy, did they ever. This Yorgos Giacomakis goal was 4 of 5 that Atlanta put up against the Herons, thrashing them at home by a score of 5-2. Just when you think MLS can't get any more insane, it shows you what it's capable of. In a battle between two Eastern Conference contenders, Ramiro Enrique scored in the 87th minute to tie Columbus. And then this goal in the 7th minute of stoppage time to stun the Crew 4-3 and pick up 3 huge home points. We're stepping away one more time, but first, here's the answer to this week's Union Trivia question. Julian Carranza has committed 7 fouls in a game 3 different times, the most in Union history for a single game. In fact, all those were this season, March 18th at Montreal, May 6th at the Red Bulls, and just this past Saturday against FC Cincinnati. Starting this year, every Union League match is on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Sign up today to make sure you don't miss a minute of the action. You can also check out the live Whip Around show, MLS 360, or if you missed out on the live, you can relive every moment with full match replays. And get this, if you're a T-Mobile subscriber, you get this whole year of Season Pass content free of charge. It is the final segment here on Union Insider presented by Bimbo Bakeries USA, which means it is time for our All-State players to watch. So Seba and Sheanon have selected a player to watch for the upcoming match against LAFC. And I just want to preface, we know the Union have a game on Wednesday. We filmed this on Tuesday, so we don't know what's going to happen in that one. But we're just looking ahead, turning the page to LA. Seba, who you got?
I'm going to have a safe pick. I'm going to go with Jack Elliott. He's suspended on Wednesday, so he might play and start on Saturday. But I just pick him just for 2 reasons. The first thing is he has been successful against LAFC. He's a guy who scored 2 goals in the final. I feel like he maybe have another one in the bag, to score against them and maybe be offensively, a good player for the Union. And then we talk about Bwanga, Vela. it's something that you need to be better. It's the best challenge for him. He needs to be able to, keep composure between those guys, make sure he defend well first before, he attack, and communication between him and Glaznes in the back will be, I think, good to keep away Braga and Vela from the goal. But it's a great test for him, and he has a full week of recovery to make sure he's fit for this game. So hopefully a big game for Jack Elliott.
Yeah, he'll have a little time to be a little well rested heading into Saturday. And Sheanon, very carefully make your selection.
My player to watch this week is going to be Andre Blake. I think with two of the better attackers in MLS coming into the building, I think he's going to have to come up big with a couple saves, and I'd like to see him get a shutout again. I think it's been long overdue for Andre to come in to his own house and get a shutout. So looking for him to come up big and to really lead this team from the back.
That's going to do it for us. The Union are back at home on Saturday to take on the reigning MLS champs, LAFC. That kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. and you can watch it on Apple TV. But if you want to listen to it alongside Sheanon's beautiful voice with Jonathan Yardley, that radio call is on 97.5 The Fanatic. We will be back here next week to talk all about it. For Seba, Sheanon, and our entire crew, I'm Marisa. Have a great weekend, and thanks for watching.